All right.
All right, you're live.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our live happy hour. This is our first in the series of the Texas Hill Country Wineries Happy Hours Live. And tonight we are graced with the presence of two fantastic winemakers, David Kuhlken from Pedernales Cellars, and we've got John Rivenburgh from Kerrville Hills Winery. We know everyone is home, but there's no reason we shouldn't have a little bit of camaraderie, some good times, good conversations, some delicious Texas wine. We want tonight to be both informative as well as educational. So we'll let both John and David talk a little bit, but why don't we start off with, guys, what are you drinking? What's in your glass tonight?
Well, I am doing our 2017 Malbec, which we released out to Wine Club recently. And this is coming primarily from High Plains. So this comes out from the Leahy Vineyard as well as the Newsom Vineyard in the High Plains. And good, yeah, good, nice kind of dark, rich color. But this is also one, and this kind of gets to like what a lot of us are doing at the winery, is this is one that we're doing as an online special right now too, as a Reds bundle. So, you know, like I said, that's one of the easy ways we can reach out to you guys and come get this one online. So,
great. John, what are you having?
This is actually something pretty fun. We did a couple of interesting fun projects this year at the end of harvest. And this is a Newsom Vineyard Paquette. This is Paquette made from 50% Tannat out of that vineyard and 50% Petit Syrah. Really, really fun. Low alcohol, fresh and bright. Still with some interesting body to it. It's pretty cool. We just bottled it a couple days ago.
Well, cool. What's a Paquette?
So Paquette is it's a re-fermentation. It's a non-waste product. We take pumice post pressing, and we rehydrate with water, and we chaptalize with sugar, and we let the natural leftover yeast reenact another fermentation. And so it's basically it's a re-ferment of pumice, rehydrated pumice.
Fantastic. So I have Pedernales Tempranillo tonight. And I chose this one because I can find it close to home at the HEB and also at Twin. So easy for me to restock after I finish this one. All right, so we've got a few people joining us. Thank you very much for everybody who's watching. Guys, what's going on? It's spring, it's raining like crazy right now, but what's happening outside in the vineyards?
Well, I mean, for us, pruning is done in our Hill Country vineyard. And in fact, everything has finally bud broke. Got bud break starting, well, almost as long ago as like 2 weeks ago, I think, 2.5. And some of the late varieties like Malbec are just now finally coming out. Things look pretty good. You know, like I said, all this rain probably helps a little, but the crews are now already coming through and starting to work on desuckering and just getting things being set. We're also, at least in our case, we're doing a good bit of new planting. So we'll be putting in vines in the next few weeks and getting that started. Got some new Tempranillo blocks to put in, some Petit Syrah we're gonna put in. Yeah, kind of, I mean, we're busy actually, because there's a lot to get geared up this year in the vineyard. So what about you, John?
We're pretty much doing the same thing. We did early pruning, but broke. Did a little bit of vocational training with my 10-year-old daughter. She helped me spray a vineyard out in Stonewall at Ab Asterix the other day. That was fun. We are currently starting to initialize kind of our drip programs with our foliar feeding and metocloprid protection. There, we are excited about a couple of little hill country plantings that we're going to put in this year. It's going to be kind of cool. I don't know how quite yet that's going to go, but it should be an interesting time to do that. Yeah, so as far as the hill country, that's pretty much it. Where things are just kind of in grow mode, starting to farm. With the rain, we're going to be spraying like crazy. to start out just being a critical time at, first 1 through 5 stages of the vines going up. So yeah, it'll be a busy time for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is everybody in the hill country, like we're all kind of leaning into that work in particular, and maybe even taking on some projects that we might not otherwise spend as much time on, just because we've got a little space to do that. So it's actually been kind of nice, because I personally have spent a lot more time updating the irrigation system too, just with the extra time that we've got.
So David, you said you're planting some new vines. How did you select the varieties you're planting, and the specific types of clones that you're using?
Yeah, so it's a little of the old, a little of the new. Though even with the Tempranillo, we're kind of leaning into clones that we use. Back last time we planted significant amounts of Tempranillos all the way back to 2007, and so we're looking at what we really like with our, the growers we work with in the High Plains and some of the hill country growers, and planting to those clones. Things like Petite Syrah, a lot of that is following the lead that we, get from folks like John, folks like Neil Newsom, Farmhouse, a lot of our other growers. We love the Petite Syrah that's come in. We also, like how it blends with what we already have in the estate, knowing that into the future, we want to develop out some different estate blends. So that Petite Syrah will work in nicely with the Mourvedre and with various other varieties that we already have out there. So, I mean, that guides a lot of it. We're also doing some more Sangiovese, because again, we like what that's been doing in the hill country, even if the only block we currently have is our 1996 planting of Sangiovese. And there, we want to develop in more new clones, and we'll go with some of the Topless Creek clones on several things, not that, but on several of the Rhone varietals. And that, again, all of this is just kind of following what we see that works on other sites and kind of looking to the future. So.
Great. So with having a little bit of time now, with bud break happening, what's next in the vineyard? What are you looking forward to?
I don't know. For one, having it not hail, that would be, I guess, next. But no, in all seriousness, this is looking to be for us a fairly vigorous year. I mean, based on what we're seeing, we've got really good fruit development on there, lots of really good push. And if that, rains like this come in early, we're going to just be trying to stay ahead of that and keep everything really balanced. So, I mean, that's going to keep us on our toes, I suspect. But we're, I think we're excited about what we see, and we've got several other sites that we manage. We've got Sico Monod site, which is one of our growers that's up on 965, and that's more Tempranillo, and we're looking to really kind of, that's a block that's now becoming much more mature, and we're hoping to be able to do a lot with. So it's, I mean, it's exciting. John, I think, really sees a lot more of the different hill country sites with all the folks that he works with. And I mean, there's just a lot of, there's a lot more like increasingly mature blocks that have been put in now, that there's a lot of exciting things coming out of those. So.
But we're in April. What's the latest we've had a freeze in Texas?
May 5th.
May 5th?
Yeah, for High Plains though, right? Like hill country, I'm thinking second week April, third week April?
Yeah, third week April. I think I know we've had like a April 22nd, like the drought year we had in 2011, we had a late freeze that year, but it was just like, I mean, it was like nominal that year. It wasn't something that roasted everything. Yeah. I mean, we've got some really cool, exciting, like we've got some vineyards that are, really coming into like year 5, year 6 that have some pretty interesting stuff growing in them. Most of which I've been very lucky and blessed to be part of, and made wines out of a lot of those for myself and for other producers. I just got told I'm fidgeting with a cork. I just got told off camera to stop fidgeting with the cork. It's happy hour. This is not the first libation I've had in the afternoon. So the things that are most exciting is seeing some of these blocks, like as you guys well know, I work real close with Ab Astris, and you know, we made a Claire Blanc out of there this last year, and this year it's already come on like wildfire. And I've just been blown away by the tenacity of this white grape, right? It's almost like a Tannat growing in the vineyard, but for a white vine. It really reminds me a lot of like a Vermentino, not the structure of the wine, but the actual growing style, the structure of the vine, the tenacity of the vine. It's resistance to disease, pressure. I was blown away the last 2 years. And so that's something I'm really looking forward to this year, is making some more of that.
Cool. So with a mild winter we've had, what does that do to the vines? Is it you expecting more vigor or any more pest issues or anything like that this spring?
I mean, I would say, I would say for sure we're already. I've already seen vineyards trapping sharpshooters and you know, overwintering adults that as these little vines wake up. That's why we're actually dripping a little bit earlier with our Midichloprid this year than we normally would, because I'm pretty convinced that the overwintering adults, you're going to see some flare-ups. You know, you got a little bit more pressure from a insect vector standpoint. At least that's what I'm seeing visiting all these different locations. So I think that would be number one. Scary for me is just the rain. You know, black rot is always such a voracious battle in all the vineyards in the hill country. And so with the amount of rain we're going to have, it looks like, you know, we've had in the past 2 weeks, and then what we've got coming ahead of us this week, I do worry a little bit on these young shoots that we'll see some kind of flourishing outbreaks. But I think most everybody these days has gotten to where their spray programs are pretty solid. And, you know, it's not like it was 10 years ago and it was, you know, oh man, what do we do? Everybody's pretty well versed now and in the decent sized vineyards on how to manage and mitigate those things.
Yeah.
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, every year does set up differently, and we're always trying to sort of pace out to be able to manage through the entire season. But yeah, I would agree with John. The early rains are always, I mean, they represent a challenge, because if you get behind early on any of these funguses, then it's pretty tough to catch up. And so we always worry about that. But of course, we don't. You know, we've got to be prepared for all of the eventualities about what we may get in the vineyard. So for all we know, we're going to be looking at drought conditions later. But, you know, I think we all worry a little bit more about a rainy, wet year than anything else, because it's easier to work against the latter. So, but yeah.
So what are some of the early vines that are going to get fruit set first?
I mean, the first thing for us out of the vineyard, usually the earliest fruit set probably is our Tempranillo. Sangiovese's right there with it. Those tend to be the ones that set up the earliest for us and then end up being the earliest harvest. Depending on what the wine program looks like, if we're doing anything for rosé, like out of stuff like the Sangiovese or Tempranillo, then we can be harvesting those in late July. So fruit set is actually is up front with those. Whereas like the Mourvèdre, it's certainly behind. It's almost 3 weeks behind in some cases. So that's the range for mine. I don't have, I'm trying to think of like, John, do you have any varietals that are really early or really late out of the set that you guys use?
I mean, early, no, not really. I mean, you know, I kind of spent the last decade trying to find things that don't come out early. Oddly enough, that being said, Tannat has become, as these vines have gotten older, I've seen Tannat be one of the more like less middle to late and more like middle to early out of some of the varietals that we've been planting. The shining star still for me after, you know, 8 years of growing it is Chassagne. I mean, it is literally just bud broke. I mean, like this week is barely, I would say it's at 40% bud break, which is pretty awesome. I mean, it's almost a full month behind everything else. So
yeah. I mean, and for folks like, you know, like when we're always like talking to consumers about the vineyards, you know, our site, we're located at about 1,500 feet thereabouts in the hill country. but, you know, we've managed sites that are down like towards like Driftwood and Blanco, which are kind of closer to Austin. And then of course we've got the vineyards as far out as like Neil Newsom's place, which is like about what, 3,800 feet, I think, something like that. And so this range, even if you just pick a certain varietal like Tempranillo, you can be talking like, you know, 6 weeks apart on some of these, or longer for, you know, spacing between fruit set and timing. So even hill country, you've got a big range when you talk about all the way from close to Austin, all the way up to the sites like say in Mason and further out. The elevation is a lot of it, but then there's other factors, and they range. So, you know, like our Mason growers, they can certainly be looking at freezes all the way to the end of April. So.
All right, so John, you just reminded me, this is a happy hour. So we know what the three of us are drinking. People watching, will you weigh in the comments and tell us what you're drinking? And then tell us what kinds of wine you want to hear about for us to talk about next. Who's first?
John?
Yes. Was that a
Yeah.
John, how about you tell us, what are you excited to make this season?
What am I excited to make this season? Man, I mean, we are, you know, some of you guys saw the campy video I did, you know, on exotic wines. And, but I mean, in all honesty, I mean, you know, you guys know me well, you know, I take this stuff very seriously. And I get to work with so many cool varietals, right? Like, so it's almost like being a coach of a sports team. Like what are you most excited about for who's going to do what? I think that for me, you know, every year has a new project. Like last year we did an Amarone Sagrantino in 19. That was super cool. And that was fun. I think this year, what I'm most excited about, and I got to take hats off to old Bill Blackman, Merlot. I've made 3 vintages of just smoking Merlot. And I love to tell the story about how, you know, 8 years ago or so, maybe 9 at this point, Bill and I used to carpool up to a board meeting in Dallas. And the whole way up there, you know, Bill would be like, man, you gotta do Merlot, you gotta do Cab. And I'd be like, Bill, dude, it's Petit Syrah and Tannat, you know, get with the times, man. And just the last couple of years, when I went into consulting, I had the opportunity to make wines at different places, and sometimes wines that I wasn't necessarily all that thrilled about. And Merlot was one of them. I'm not going to lie. And I have been completely dumbfounded by the Merlots I've made in the last 4 years, particularly. And so I'm excited. You know, the Nara Vineyards puts out this Merlot that has these tiny, like, you know, maybe 1/4-inch berries that are just so dense and fruity, and it makes it a really, really killer Merlot. So I'm kind of excited about making Merlot this year, to be honest with you. And it looks really good given the late fall freeze issues we've had up in the High Plains. So it's actually looking like it's gonna do fairly well.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I've had a few really good Merlots from Texas lately, so looking forward to tasting yours.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing I've been excited about, honestly, in ours is, again, it's the same. We do work with such a range of varieties, and it gives us a chance to do more than just the things that we kind of have at the base. You know, we do so much Tempranillo that, you know, it's enjoyable to lean into some of these other parts of the program. And this last year, for example, like the Carignan that we've been getting in has just been fantastic. It was one of those ones that came off really well timed. Had time to get it in the cellar with all kinds of kind of really just rich red fruit to it. We did actually at the end of the 2019 harvest, actually did like a Nouveau bottling with some of that Carignan just to kind of have something early on to highlight it. And then looking at that in the cellar, been really enjoying what we can do with it. On the other end of that spectrum though, like we've had Adelaide for the last few years, had some Graciano. And as that has gotten more mature, just the rich textures with that, it just kind of got this incredibly deep, dark, almost like a candy cherry kind of thing going, licorice, all kinds of notes on it. You know, it's one of those varieties that traditionally you're just seeing blended in with Tempranillo these days, and yet stand alone, it can do some really cool stuff. And I enjoy this because it's, you know, like when when I first like came into business, you know, the only thing that, you know, you saw like being done like with really good high quality like that was things like the Merlots and the Cabs. And I mean, those really, again, they can be extraordinary, but you couldn't find some of these varietals. And now, you've got everything from Chazal, like what John's talking about, Graciano. And though I don't really figure that this is, you know, the kind of thing that becomes like a mass distributed kind of wine, it is a beautiful wine to be able to make and to be able to use in our program and have for wine club members. So I'm excited about that stuff. I mean, the other that we've been, I feel like over the years, slowly developing up and we kind of fall in love with on the white side has just been Albarino. Just really good, rich notes. We got some good Albarino this last year out of the Nara vineyard. Got some out of Bingham. We grow some in our estate vineyard. And as far as like a white that we can do everything from some barrel aging to like some blending with our tank ferments, it's been great. So that's one that we're starting to do a little bit of distribution with, but mostly, you know, it's something that the wine club and tasting room does. So.
Very cool. So we have a question for you, John. When is your Sagrantino going to be released?
Oh man. Well, we just produced it in 19. That wine's going to sit. I mean, it's going to sit a solid 20 plus months. So I'm not one to, I never have been one to put like it's going to do exactly 6 months, 10 months, 24 months. I'm more of a, you know, as we work through it in the cellar, we taste it and then we make those decisions based upon what we taste. I've had wines that I was convinced we were going to leave 24 months, and at 18, I couldn't believe how great it tasted, so we bottled it, right? But this one in particular, I mean, just given the style, the richness, the enormity of the body, it's going to be at least 20 before I really start looking at it to try and put it together.
Okay, so we also had a question for you, John. Some people didn't know what you were drinking because they came in a little later than when you described what's in your glass.
2019 Paquette. It is 100% Newsom. Half of it is Petite Syrah, half of it is Tannat. Obviously, it is not a super dense. It's like literally just over 6% alcohol. It's a hummus re-fermentation is what it is. It's more of a kind of fresh and fruity and bright. It's honestly, it's a little closer to a beer. If we carbonated it, it'd be like drinking a wine beer.
Why wouldn't you carbonate it? That sounds great.
Who said I didn't? I just did not carbonate this one.
All right.
We bottled some. We're going to put some in keg. We've got some keg programs we're looking at doing with it. This is all kind of like this is all in beta, if you will. This year, going into harvest, we pretty much are going to make a mirrored paquette of everything that we produce from the different co-op producers. So we're going to make kind of a ridiculous amount of paquette this year. We're all kind of geeked out on this low alcohol, fermentation style. So, yeah.
That's cool. So Dave, you mentioned the Carignan Nouveau. You guys make a lot of that, or is that a small production wine?
That's a small production wine. And that was one of those, we really were just excited about that aspect of the harvest. And so Joanna, our winemaker, wanted to put that out. It's something I think we'll do again in the future because it's actually kind of fun. Probably lean into it a little bit more though if we do, and kind of do that in even a more traditional method. But again, it's also that, the Carignan, particularly out of this harvest, but in general, we get it's got a beautiful fruit to it. And it's something that is really well suited for doing that style. That being said, I mean, the parts that are in the cellar now that will age out, I'm excited about where that'll go. I'm hoping we'll do a varietal Carignan out of that 2019 vintage, because otherwise in the past, Carignan, at least for us, has mostly made it into the GSM blend and some of those where we're kind of blending it away. But as we've developed that side of the program, I'm excited about seeing that one coming out varietally. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So Dave, we had a request to tell us again what you're drinking because some people signed on after we showed our wines.
Yeah, so I am drinking, this is the 2017 Malbec. and this is the first vintage we have ever done a varietal Malbec. It's been in our program for a relatively long time, but in the past we haven't done it. And I will say Malbec is one of those varietals where we're more commonly blending it with Bordeaux blends, like when we do our Newsom North Block blend. We've been blending with, that's usually a Merlot, Cab, Malbec blend. But the 17 vintage was a fantastic vintage of Malbec for one. And so we decided to go ahead and do that. And we've actually followed on and done some blending with Malbec out of the 18 vintage as well. Malbec is not necessarily an every year grape for us as far as doing standalone, because it can be a sensitive grape that has to hang out at the latter part of harvest in order to really get the appropriate ripeness. But when it is nice, it's great. It's not even, we don't even get that really like kind of more to that dark fruit type of Malbec quality that you would expect out of, say, Argentina or somewhere like that. It is one of those ones where it's kind of a mid-range with nice red fruit, but then just kind of has some of those like kind of dried leaf components and a little bit of dried cherry to it as well. And anyway, that's this one I'm really enjoying, and I'm excited because it's one that we'll have in the tasting room right now. In fact, again, you can order online, but it is, yeah, it's just been released and it's out there for everybody. So.
Great. We have another question for you, John. When will you release another Tempranillo?
Well, we actually this week started putting down the next, and this time it's not going to go into the Rivenburgh brand. The Tempranillo this year is going to go into the Kerrville Hills Winery label, but this will be a 2016 Reserve Newsom Temp. So we pulled those barrels a couple days ago, and I've been kind of selecting which ones are going to go in, and so it'll be soon. Hopefully within the next couple months we'll have one. Again, it'll come down to when we put it together and we go through bottling. I'm known for being a little cantankerous at times, so it may be 3 months that it sits in the bottle. It may be 2. We may be super excited and ready to sell wine, so it may be 1. I don't know, but I would say in the next 3 to 4 months for sure, you're going to see another Tempranillo from me as a producer. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So obviously, things are a little different these days. The tasting rooms aren't open. What's the best way for people to get and enjoy Texas wines? What can we do when we need to get our fix every day?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think every winery in the Texas Hill Country wineries has, leaned into a range of different services for you to get your wines. So if you go to the Hill Country page, it'll give you a rundown of what services are available. Most wineries, for example, are doing curbside. Virtually all are doing online sales. And in many cases, one of the things that's almost kind of a plus in this moment is there's a lot of really cool specials. You're seeing a lot of wineries putting together packages of all sorts. Some of them with some shipping specials, a lot of them reaching into the library to put together some really cool packages. And the other thing that's kind of cool is you can go to that page and you'll see a lot of the wineries are setting up a lot of different online kind of tastings. So if you kind of get ahead of those, you can in fact order the wines for them, sit down and taste through with the winemakers and various different folks on their staff. So you've got all those channels available. We've got some wineries that'll actually in their specific areas do delivery. So there's still a lot of ways to reach out, not to mention that more than, I think there's at least about 15 of the Hill Country wineries right now that are in distribution. And so not all, obviously, if we're talking about on-premise and restaurants, it varies depending on your region, whether those restaurants have wines available to you, but certainly grocery stores and most of the retailers, whether it's the small independent shops or the large chains will have those wines. And so we really, I know a lot of folks want to try to minimize their time in the store, but you can definitely reach out and find most of those wines in your stores, and you can definitely still experience Texas wines. So I encourage everybody to go out there and get into that. And not to mention, most wine clubs will be shipping on schedule. So like I said, that'll be the next way too for you to get wines, is those wine club shipments will be bringing you your next round of Hill Country wines. So.
Great. John, you guys doing anything different to make sure people are all set with wine?
You know, we're currently not in distribution. That was one thing I was working on right before everything started to go in a different direction. We are available for orders online. We will still do some delivery in adjacent counties to us. But beyond that, we're kind of just basically weathering the storm, if you will. We're looking forward to getting back to business as usual and releasing some great wines. We're kind of gearing up for our customers right now to open up the doors back with some great new and exciting wines. That's pretty much what we're doing at this point.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So if you guys wanted to entertain questions from people, what would you want them to ask you right now?
I mean, I would, you know, this is such a strange time, right? Like it's hard for anybody to imagine what their, you know, like their work life looks like. And I'd actually be kind of interested in kind of getting into that for folks that, you know, we sadly don't get to spend time now with consumers and with our, you know, our wine club members and everything the way that we're used to, right? So tasting room, wine club events, outside events. I mean, I think my life is probably like everybody else out there who might be listening and just in this world in general. My entire calendar just entirely disappeared, almost everything, because whether it's my work, you know, calendar, or whether it's my, you know, family and kids life, all that stuff, suddenly days of the week aren't a thing. But the thing is, in a winery, you know, and with vineyards, we run, it's not just that tasting room and all that front of house. We're running the winery. We're still on schedule doing everything we would normally be doing. And we're, you know, we're excited kind of plowing ahead on all that. So like my schedule is still like, I got 4 days of bottling next week. We'll be in and out of the vineyards every day for the next few weeks, going out and starting to look at vineyards in the High Plains more and more. The season is going, and honestly, you know, the Texas wine industry will be ready to pick up on that front end when we can all be in the same room together again, doing the things we've always been doing. I don't know, it's just like everybody else, we don't know what day that part is, but it doesn't change anything about what we're making and where we're going with these businesses, because all of us, you know, like that's one of the beauties of the wine industry. This is such a long-term business. These wines we're talking about, like a lot of things John's talking about in the cellar, the wines that we're talking about in the cellar, you know, these are, I don't even expect to release that Carignan we're talking about for 2 more years, right? I mean, It's something that, you know, that like, it almost is sort of like one of these hopeful notes, because I sit there and think about that, and you know, I never know what the world's going to be like in 2 years. I didn't anticipate this, just like everybody else. Right. But you know, I can be pretty excited because I can picture a world where I get to roll that out, and I'll have, you know, the wine club here, and we'll be able to enjoy it all together when it's time for that wine to come out. And that's the kind of things we're working on now. Is we're working on getting those wines going in the cellar. The production team's working. A lot of our, you know, folks that were previously working in the tasting room are now out in the vineyard digging holes and getting ready to plant the next set of the vineyard. I mean, that's like, I'm actually really grateful and thankful that we do have all of these different threads to our business, because it means that through this, there's a lot of things going on and will continue to go on, because yeah, that stuff we don't set aside. It's still happening despite all the other stuff going on around us right now. So.
Right. So, you know, we mentioned virtual tastings, and this is kind of a virtual tasting. We were having a happy hour. We didn't ask people to drink a particular wine, but we see from the thread, there's all kinds of wines being enjoyed tonight where people are drinking along.
Sure.
I'm curious, for people listening in, what do you think of virtual tastings? I know I've seen people, some of the people who joined us tonight in other formats, and do you think that this is an okay substitution for what we do in the tasting room or at wine festivals or events, or is this something we need to figure out how to evolve a little bit more and add more elements to be more, even more engaging and to draw people in for virtual wine tastings? Any thoughts out there on people listening in, or any thoughts from you, John and David?
I mean, I'll chime in. I mean, I'm really, I'm pretty interested in the way that the whole like social dynamic of virtual tastings has kind of come about. It's funny, before all this happened, this is something that we've been talking about pretty regularly, both in in some sort of vlog series or regular virtual tasting, just because I've been kind of blown away with some of the technologies like Zoom that my kids have used with school and things like that. But I mean, if you know me, right, like David does, and like you do, Matt, and a lot of the folks out there, you know that I would rather be in a room full of people telling jokes, talking, drinking wine. So it's difficult for me in that regard, but I think it's fantastic. I think we as people need to be social and stay together. And I think in some odd ways, it's really brought us together on a completely different level, right? So I'm interested. Like David and I, as to the board members, have talked about, we're going to continue these series moving forward. We're going to sharpen them, get them better, have great, even more interesting content. So yeah, I think it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like that there's gonna be lots of good and bad like kind of content, like because we're all experimenting, honestly. Like, I mean, there probably are a few wineries that can take credit for leaning into this a little bit more before we got here, for doing more video content. But it's, like crisis kind of breeds innovation, and we all get now a crash course on how to do this. So I'm pretty confident that whatever we do today, for example, on this tasting, is something that with each iteration we get better at. And then, yeah, I'm excited that some of this will have a really good place going forward. I don't know, like I'm with John, like, we are an industry that is so much about that like in-person experience. And that goes for what we do at the winery, but it goes for what our customers do when they take the wines home. Like, we don't really encourage them to go sit in a room by themselves and drink a glass of wine. Normally we tell them to go join their friends and go have a good experience, but we are where we are right now, right? And so this is the next best thing we get to do. And I'm hoping that this format, we can develop some things out of this that, sure, when we're all able to get in the same place, I want it to be a more social experience, but that doesn't mean we can't do more with this. And I've seen some wineries lean into this in some ways that are really interesting. And it's good because I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but I have a group of friends, for example, from college, and we spend time together over the years, going on trips together, meeting up in places, but we never got together this way, right? And suddenly in this crisis, every few days we get together and have like a huge kind of Zoom meeting and hang out with each other. And I have spent more time socializing, albeit virtually, with that group of friends than I did, for the years prior, right? Like, I mean, I'm psyched. I want that to live on. And I think there's some opportunities here with what we use to do that. And so, maybe I'm looking for, try to put a happy face on some parts of this that aren't that great, but this is actually, it's got some potential. So.
Yeah, I agree. There is, I see more people right now in the industry on a regular basis through Zoom and Twitter and other, Facebook Live, than I've seen in other than at conferences. So people are coming out and supporting each other, which is fantastic. And I'm seeing people open a lot of Texas wine, which is, heartwarming for me, for sure. There's a few people have commented, this is strange and we want to see people face to face, but this is a nice supplement until we can get there. And then we have a question. One question was, let me scroll back to it. What are some projects you're daydreaming about right now that you can move forward with soon, or when things get back to normal?
Well, so I'm just looking to distract myself right now. So let's see. I've got several. I'm building a bocce court over at the winery right now. That's one project that I'm excited about. I've said I would do that for 10 years, and now that I have plenty of time on my hands, I am doing that. But that might not necessarily what you're thinking about, but it is something I'm excited about. And honestly, like if you like over here at the winery, it's like we are spending a lot of time brainstorming on like doing, again, everything from those projects where we're doing renovations in the tasting room. We're doing, we got more time with the production staff. So we're actually leaning into really like organizing our wine program in a way we've never gotten to do. I mean, I think a lot of these, like what I was talking about with the vineyard, I mean, we're having time to concentrate on really like making some improvements that we wouldn't normally get, because I mean, you can imagine, I know for most of our wine club members, you know, April is a month normally, like every weekend is like 10 events and like a whole bunch of festivals and that kind of thing. So normally we don't have time to breathe. And instead, we're actually spending a lot of that time working on, you know, kind of improving and changing and adding things here. And I'm actually sort of psyched about it. This isn't how I would have planned things to be, but it is kind of cool to be able to lean into that stuff. So, yeah.
Great. Well, Karen Bonarigo is excited about your new bocce court. I think she'll be visiting pretty soon.
Sweet. Tell her it's not going to be regulation though. I could only get to 75 feet. So apparently 87 to 90 feet is a regulation length. I don't know if she's like, you know, down for that. So. Yeah,
she is. She wants proper bocce.
David.
Hey man, you know, there's got to, yeah.
John, what are you spending your time doing? Are you doing any daydream projects?
I just rebuilt the office at Kerrville Hills. That was kind of nice. Like we took our communal office and completely emptied it, and I built like over the last 2 days, like all new desk workstations for everybody, like one big built-in desk deal. It's been fun to do that.
Wait, did you steal that from us?
No, David, I did not. No, David. I'll post pictures later on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got ours built first.
Well, I laid on the barrel first, David. Let's just, no. If we're going to do this, let's just do this now. No, I'm kidding. Honestly, Matt, man, for me, you guys know, and a lot of people out there know, I mean, I run on a Herculean pace, right? Like people often wonder if I sleep, if I do, when. And it's been so cool to be just like, you know, I can't. I'm slow. Like I can just laser focus in on the things that I really want to work on, right? Which are kind of like my in-house projects here that we've got for like the Anthema project that we're doing out of the High Plains, and my personal wines and the Kerrville Hills Winery wines, which have been kind of pushed back a little bit. And two, you know, I'm learning the whole new art of school teaching, which is fun with a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. That's been fun. But honestly, it's been nice to just take a slower pace to things. Granted, a lot of the stuff I do is kind of like social distance by nature, just because I spend so much time in my truck and so much time in places that are rural, right? Whether it's the High Plains or running around the hill country or here at the winery. As far as my schedule, like I really don't see too many other places other than like the winery or my house. Like, unless you guys see me out at one of the events we have. But yeah, I guess I've just been looking forward to and continuing the slow pace that we've kind of encountered. It's been nice. Like David was saying earlier, my cousins and I have started a weekly Zoom, and that's been cool, right? Like reconnecting with some family that I haven't had the best ability to talk to on a regular basis because of just everybody's lives being hectic and kids and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just being a little slower has been nice.
Yeah, that's true. So this particular live happy hour, this is the first one in a series that we're going to have, and these will go on every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. So we'll have different people coming in to talk. And we just had a comment from somebody saying they're really enjoying these virtual tastings, virtual meetings, so that people can get a chance to meet winemakers, meet new folks coming up in the industry. If you guys had a chance to invite somebody to come on to this particular live happy hour to hear from them, who would you invite to host in the coming weeks?
Oh, wow.
Someone new and exciting that you think everyone needs to hear about in Texas.
God, man. I mean, like I'm excited to hear, like in the association, right? Like in the Hill Country Trail itself, we have mostly pretty established winemakers, but there are a lot of projects coming. And I'd actually be psyched to get some of the sort of up and coming winemakers that some of them are co-opt and working at other wineries right now, developing their wines. Some are, entirely new people to this industry. I'd actually be psyched just to hear about some of those projects. Because, I feel like it's like every one of us gets like a certain part of this, but I mean, something that has like, this industry used to be small enough that like, whether it was John or like, Bill Blackman or like that small group of us that were kind of around, you'd kind of know everything that was going on. Now I'm totally like excited to hear about all these new projects and new wineries that are coming, new wines that are coming out. I'd be psyched to just get a group of those like new winemakers that another year from now, we're going to be seeing those tasting rooms showing up or those wines showing up in places, because I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff coming, and I'd love to see it. I'd love to get a group of them together and hear what they're experiencing, what they're doing. And yeah, that'd be fun. Let's make it happen.
John, you want to see? All right, I've got a question here from Chris Kern. I'll let you off the hook there, John. Chris Kern out of Paso in the wine industry there has a question. He wants to know, do we think that introducing new technologies like virtual tastings will open up wine and the wine world to more millennials and Gen Z future customers by accessing them in a totally different way?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume so. I hope so, right? I mean, I'm still a millennial at heart, as many people know.
Dude, you're so old.
Oh yeah, no, I'm old. Yeah, I mean, not really old. I'm not old by the Earth standards, but I'm old by millennial standards. And so I definitely think so, right? I mean, we've talked about and struggled with how to reach new wine drinkers on a different level, right? And I think this is going to be a really interesting way to do it. Going back to what I said earlier, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start some sort of more digital platform, because I wanted to introduce wines and all the cool things that we're doing, right? Like, I mean, I meet millennials at tastings and they talk about, these natural wines or Paquette for, whatever reason, or these things. And I'm like, yeah, no, I made the first one, like 6 years ago. And they're like, wow, really? And I just have never had a way to, connect those dots. And so I think this is going to do two things. One, it's going to help us connect to millennials and Gen Zs. But at the same time, I think it's going to help us connect to people that are outside of our local unit, right? That guy was just from Paso. So, I mean, we're going to be connecting with people that are learning about Texas wines and how, one, innovative they are and how great they are, that normally wouldn't, simply because as Texans, we drink all of our wine, right? We're just not out in national presence. So I think that's cool, right? I think it's kind of a twofold. I think we're going to catch a broader market with the virtual world as well as a younger market. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I would emphasize that, like, I think one of the cool things that this enables is that when a lot of what we do in Texas can be, let's be honest, can be a little bit nichey, right? Like sometimes we're working on a varietal or a style that, there may be thousands of people interested in it, but they're all over the world, right? They're all over the place. And this is a way where you can kind of aggregate people and be able to actually get into it with people who geek out on what it is you're doing, right? So, like we grow, for example, like in fact, Nara has it in their vineyard. We'll bring in Terral to go. And it's actually a really fun varietal to work with. And over the years, you know, it's like I've made the contact with a number of people who are even making wines in Toronto, people on the like consumer end who are really excited about it. But it's not the kind of thing where I can like, you know, bring it up in a big consumer event and have more than like 1 out of 500 people in the room know what the hell I'm talking about, right? But this is a really good way of like online and through a format like this, you can have a discussion where, you know, if you reach out to the people who actually care about this, they can engage in a conversation and you can bring that, you know, small and diverse group of people together to talk about it. So, you know, Texas, I mean, one of the things that we have going for this region is that there's a healthy level of experimentation and there's a lot of people willing to take a risk and try some different things. And I think, you know, it can be surprising for people in a lot of other regions to realize what folks here have been doing in many cases for years, because you know, we're not bound up in a pretty strict set of like expectations about what we make. And so you'll find people doing it. And this is a nice format for that, because now whether it's somebody in Paso or it's somebody in Europe or wherever, if they're also like working with that varietal, doing that style of wine, they can kind of join in and use a format like this to actually connect. So I hope we see more of it, honestly. But
yeah, I agree, Dave.
So do you think, you know, with things going virtual, do you think that there will be an opportunity for Texas wine to be discovered by people out of state and start ordering it online?
Well, I mean, they can. Like, you know, it depends on the winery here, whether they can get access to it. We ship to roughly 33 states. And there are a lot of the wineries, you know, whether they're using a third-party shipper or they've done it themselves, can reach a wide number of states. So you can get the wines, but I mean, you know, it is a question of whether or not people like kind of reach out, get to know the wines, and discover what we do well and what we don't, and then, you know, go from there. So I feel like it's only been the last few years that you could reliably get like an increasingly large number of Texas wines, and still most of it's direct ship. I mean, and we can go around the hill country and the wineries. There's probably half a dozen wineries that, you know, have some distribution presence outside of Texas, but it's small. The rest is mostly this direct. You know, I mean, I think for most people who experience it, they realize, oh yeah, no, there's actually some pretty cool stuff going on. So I hope to see more folks now being able, and again, I think online is, whether it's this forum or it's others, I mean, this is the way that they're often going to discover it, because they're not going to likely walk into, even if it's like the sort of a specialty retail shop, they're not likely to walk in and find a lot of Texas wine except for in a handful of places now.
So we're about 5 minutes away from the end, and I just wanted to acknowledge we have a really nice comment about my sweet beard, and I was wondering if the people watching could weigh in and vote whether John's beard is better or mine. Mine is a little more Santa-like, and I think that gives me Christmas style points. But if anyone has a preference, or if you like them both, just let us know. I'm gonna wait till I hear from all of you.
I'm gonna have to say that you know, I've had the first thing I did when I left my corporate life 13 years ago is I grew a beard. So this beauty's been here a long time, so I might get some longevity points, hopefully. And it's actually very nicely trimmed in the time because I was going to be on social media today, and I didn't look quite as Grizzly Adams as I usually do. So, yeah.
Well, but before I vote, I do want to say that I have seen John without the beard and with the beard, and John needs to keep the beard.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I will say that. John without the beard, no. John needs to have a beard. Matt, have I ever seen you without a beard?
No, I grew my beard 16 years ago when my son was born, and almost 17 years now. And yeah, I haven't, other than one Movember, I haven't shaved the full thing since then.
I think I saw that sweet picture of you from like college or whatever that was at your like birthday celebration without the beard. And that's adorable. But yeah, I don't think I've seen adult, like, you know, Matt without the beard. So yeah.
Adorable is a word I love for you to use for me a lot. I like it a lot. And Dave, there's a request from Chase Jones for you to grow a stash. And I believe he wants you to get a really nice long stash.
I will authorize the printing of the stash picture from earlier last year. I do have one.
David.
Yeah.
David, I have it. I have
yeah.
it. I actually have all phases of the beard trimming. So we could actually do like a 3-panel t-shirt.
We will,
yeah, that would be great.
January needs to put that one out there because I actually kind of dug the stash too. So
it wasn't at all creepy. At all.
Oh no, not at all.
No,
beards are never. No,
we are
just
getting
a mustache is never not creepy. Yeah.
We're getting the message that we need to tell us about what's going to happen next week. So everyone who joined us tonight, I really appreciate you spending some time with us and telling us what you think about our facial hair, telling us what you're drinking tonight, drinking along with us, and is great for our solidarity. And we definitely want to keep going with these things. With your input and with you enjoying our company. What's coming up next week?
Well, next week we're going to have women in winemaking, or at least in the wine industry, I believe. So
with beards or without beards?
I'm thinking without beards. Yeah. No, I think it'll be a nice counterbalance to this this group because we're going to have an interesting set. I don't want to for sure, but I believe we'll have Karen actually from Messina Hoff. I believe Julie should be there. Jen from Bending Branch, maybe a couple others. And so that'll be a nice sort of counter to this. And I mean, like the first in many of these that'll cover a wide range of the different folks in the hill country and just making wine, growing grapes. But Thursday night, 6 p.m. So
Thursday night, 6 p.m. Okay, so we can have great topics. We can enjoy whatever kind of Texas wine we want, but we should be ready with questions and comments, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. John, what will you bring to enjoy the Women in Wine conversation next week?
I think I will. I've got a Yates GSM that I'd really like to open. That has been kind of sitting on my my shelf for a little while, calling my name. So that's most likely what I'll plan on drinking this next week.
Cool.
That sounds good to me. David, what are you gonna drink next week?
I don't know. I mean, I might actually do that Carignan since that's one that I actually kind of dig. That this is about the right season too to enjoy that. So good bright fruit. Hopefully, be a nice warm day too. So I'll be leaning into that one. So
sounds good. All right, we are about time. Any parting words on things you think people should do to enjoy their time with Texas wine?
Yeah, like I said, keep on keeping on. Join us for more of these. That would be something I would definitely ask y'all to do. And yeah, just remember that this is just a moment, guys. We'll be seeing all of you in person real soon. But in the meantime, we can do this. Let's enjoy it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Drink local, drink Texas.
Yeah.
Whether it be wine, beer, or spirits, drink local, drink Texas.
And by the way, like go out and from everybody who's watching from Texas, at least this may not be true in all parts of the country, but many of the restaurant partners we work with are open and they need your business. And honestly, like keep patronizing them because they're a good, safe place for you guys to go pick up food. You can even pick up wine, beer, all sorts of things from them, but absolutely go out and patronize them because, this is, everybody has their challenges in this moment, but if you're a restaurant, this is the time to reach out to them, help them through this and let them serve you. So.
Great. Thank you guys. Really appreciate everyone joining. And it was really, really fun to be here celebrating happy hour with you. Thank you, John. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate you moderating this. So,
my pleasure.
Guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.